there's a lot of like almost our gut-based knowing. You know, it's like taking all those signals from like our whole being, our whole body. It's like really our whole brain. It's not a like woo-woo thing. You know what I mean? Intuition is just a nice word for it, but it's like if you met someone and you had to know whether you like love them, you know, or like, do I want to marry this person? You know, it's like you can't analyze that. Like you could look on paper and you could do equate, you know, so you can't like make a rational decision about that. It's like, does this feel right? You know, it's more like getting this sort of, it's like that inner knowing. We really have a lot of inner knowing. Really, it gets shut down, but when we open that up, then, you know, that's kind of what I was meant when I said intuition. Because, you know, sometimes the spiritual words, or not spiritual words, but words like, I'll use the word heart sometimes, you know, like what would your heart say about that? Or can you feel what's in your heart? You know, something like that. But I really love the brain aspect of this. And I'm always also aware of what's happening. I mean, first of all these theories could be like debunked next year, you know what I mean? But I think we're onto something though with this new brain science, especially with the idea of integration. But I like tracking in terms of the brain and thinking about, okay, so now the amygdala is activated and we need some soothing from this. You know what I mean? It's like working. But we also have, you know, this more left brain, right brain mode, where whether it's really in the left or the right doesn't really matter, but that's one way of talking about it. But where one is more linear and logical and one's more metaphorical, imagistic, you know, and sometimes that language is the one that's going to hit the right hemisphere. It's like it needs that language, it needs the metaphors. So, you know, I'll tell someone like, wow, you are like a really big spirit, you know, something like that, because it's the right words and it holds the right meaning, even if I literally, you know what I mean? So that, but my clients, especially the ones that are not as spiritual at all, sometimes it's really fun to geek out on the science of it together. They know what I mean, and nothing that I do with someone would be like, you know, where they couldn't grasp it, where it couldn't also be explored intellectually. It's just we don't always want to be talking intellectually at every moment because we're trying to access other parts of the brain. You know, what is exciting about the things coming out with psychology and looking at it through the brain and stuff like that, is it really does support what Eastern traditions especially have known forever. So there's like this really nice kind of confluence where they come together in this really beautiful way. Every once in a while I'll have spiritual clients, and I'm pretty spiritual, but that I'll have a little disagreement on something that they've heard. I don't think it's actually a disagreement on like the true deep understanding of that spiritual thing, but every once in a while people use spirituality as a defense, you know, like say like, they might say like, well, I'm not angry, you know, I'm not angry, I've learned to just never be angry or something like that, you know, or like my Buddhist teacher told me like, you never put your, you know, just shut down the anger, you know, something like that, which I think is actually a misunderstanding, I'm sure. But actually John Kabat-Zinn, who I love, calls that spiritual bypass. You know, people use spirituality to bypass their issues. So sometimes, but it is helpful that I've had some background in spirituality so that I can engage with the language of it. Like, okay, like maybe here's a way of looking at it that can combine what you're talking about, but let's not use it as a defense. Let's like actually have it go on to a deeper level. So I think spiritual people are often really drawn, especially with me, because I use mindfulness, even though you don't have to be spiritual to use mindfulness. But it all sort of like really dovetails very beautifully.